Mhm.
for females in professional roles. And when you couple that with things that are happening privately behind the scenes that are incredibly traumatic, I can imagine it just must be so much shame that's being added on top of everything else. What are you What's your take on that? And what are you learning about it? And how are you getting organizations to kind of come to the light on this? Because traditionally, it's something that they wouldn't have touched with a 20-foot.
Right, right. And that is still an issue. I am still having difficulty. I do have a couple speaking engagements, but I'm still trying to reach out to places and say, you need this. This is part of you. You care about wellness. You care about your employees. You need to care about this too, because this is affecting people. The CDC actually recently, just I think I just posted something about it today on LinkedIn. So I don't know exactly the day, but it was recently came out and said, yes, the number now is 1 in 3. It used to be 1 in 4 women. It is, and it's more than 1 in 3. And I always say, that number is reliant on people who disclose and people who are, the professionals. We're not disclosing. It takes, something that, extreme medical attention or some type of legal, need for us to disclose. Because I personally went decades and never disclosed. For a personal story, my father was actually the domestic violence investigator in my office when I was a prosecutor. He was qualified as an expert in domestic violence in court, and I still hid it from him as we were working in the same office. So that is how deep, back to what you were saying, the shame runs. I personally was so afraid of what are people going to think? What are they going to say when I have the education. I know the signs. I know what to do. I have money. I have a good profession. I don't need, shelter. I've got my own house. What are they going to say when they know that this is what I'm experiencing? And honestly, a lot of people, they do say, well, why don't you leave? And it's because they don't understand how hard it is. People don't understand, the mental effects, the psychological effects, and the fear that people have. So you've got all of that on top of this shame and this, fear of what's going to happen to my reputation, especially when you're really succeeding and you're thriving. This is something that you do value. It's yours. You've worked for it. You don't want to shake up your whole life and lose your profession, lose the respect, lose all that you've built. And so that is something that just runs so deep. I know personally, and I've also spoken to so many survivors that have said the same thing.
I bet you have. And, I'm shocked at that statistic you shared.
Mhm.
That it's actually, it seems like it's increasing, or that the frequency of it is increasing. And I'm curious because we're in this kind of really strange moment right
Yeah.
now where, you know, um, empathy is being reframed in certain narratives as, a weakness, as a waste of time, as a character flaw. And, from where you're at, do you see, going from 1 in 4 to 1 in 3, is it that more women are feeling empowered to disclose, or saying, you know what, enough is enough? Like, I need to have a voice in this and I need to be counted? Or is it, you think, just this rise of insensitivity, or turning away from empathy, that isn't actually increasing the frequency
Yeah. Yeah.
happening in households?
I think it's increasing in frequency, but I do think it's also increasing in awareness for victims, because previously it was domestic violence requires physical violence. That's what people thought. And most people even took it to a level like, I need injury. I need, something really serious to think that this is abuse, but it's not. I mean, some of the worst abuse is the psychological and the mental abuse. And that now is becoming more talked about, and people are saying, yes, there's this deeper layer and level of abuse that's happening, so people are recognizing it. So that perhaps is the reason. So it doesn't mean it's happening more, but maybe people now are recognizing that. And I will say to that piece though, so many people have said to me when I was going through this, I used to wish he would hit me. I wished, the abuse was physical, because one, maybe then I'd get out, because there's always that idea of like, maybe if it was worse, I'd get out. But it was this, then maybe I could seek help. Then people might understand. Then it wouldn't be as shameful because people understand that. People don't understand, mental abuse and the psychological abuse. They just think that's not a big deal. And so many victims feel stuck if it's not physical. So I'm thinking that perhaps that's a reason. Without looking at the data, without looking at how this research was found, I can't really say, but I do know that's a new thing, or it's something that's been talked about more. That's been really good because it has allowed victims to say, oh, wait, that's me. That is me. I am in an abusive relationship. And that is a good thing. So hopefully once they acknowledge it, they can take that step to get out.